It's 8 o'clock.
Good morning. This is Northern Light for Tuesday, November 7th. It's Election Day. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe.
There are two proposed changes to the state constitution on the ballot. One would allow towns to surpass their debt limit to update their sewer lines. The other changes how small school districts borrow money.
This is one of the final big steps in order to achieve that equity and balance for thousands of students across the state that are in small city school districts.
Before voters go to the polls today, election workers had to test out the equipment to make sure it's in working order. They'll follow a team of one Republican and one Democrat as they prepare the voting machines.
There's nothing that says teamwork the way elections people work. I mean, everybody's helping each other. The goal is to get a good election.
And a customized trailer built by Paul Smith's college students hits the road this week. Its goal, make access to Mohawk arts, culture, and language more reachable to the Akwesasne community.
So I think I'm most proud of creating a space for a language to kind of grow in a space for people who had that space taken away from them before.
All of that and more is coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us.
Broadcast of Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio is supported by Long Run Wealth, an SEC-registered investment advisor in Lake Placid, providing comprehensive wealth management, retirement, and financial planning solutions, longrunwealth.com, and by Fisher, Bissett, Muldowney, and McCardle, attorneys and counselors at law with offices in Malone, Tupper Lake, and Saranac Lake. 800-941-5001.
This is Northern Light. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe. It is Election Day, and polls are open until 9 o'clock tonight. The ballot contains two proposals that voters might not know a lot about. One changes the way small city school districts can borrow money. The other allows municipalities to access more funds for sewer lines and other infrastructure. Karen DeWitt has more.
Proposal number 1 would change New York's constitution to allow the state's small city school districts to borrow the same proportion of money for capital projects like new roofs and technology upgrades as their rural and suburban school counterparts. For most of the state's school districts, the debt limit is 10% of their property tax base. But for the 57 city school districts with populations under 125,000 people, like Ithaca, Troy, Niagara Falls, and Batavia, the amount is capped at 5% of the tax base. The New York State School Boards Association is among those backing the proposal. The group's Brian Fessler says the debt limits were put in place in the 1950s. That was before voters had a say on the school budgets in those cities. He says it's now outdated, and the change would even the playing field for the schools, which often have high rates of economically disadvantaged students.
So ultimately, this ballot question or proposition is about equity. It's a vestige rules that were in place last century that no longer apply. And, this is kind of one of the final big steps in order to achieve that equity and balance for thousands of students across the state that are in small city school districts.
The districts will still be required to get approval from their boards of education and from voters for any debt they want to incur, just like all of the other districts in the state. A similar proposal was put before voters 20 years ago, but it was ultimately rejected. The second proposal also involves extending the ability to borrow money. This one would amend the state's constitution. It would allow municipalities to go above their constitutional debt limits for the next decade when it comes to constructing new sewage facilities, including sewer and water systems and waste treatment plants. The New York State Association of Counties, Stephen Aquario, says voters should approve the measure.
Water, drinking water, and sewer, these are essential infrastructure components for a society. You have to have water, and sewer.
He says an example of a municipality that needed to borrow above their constitutional limit is the village of Hoosick Falls in eastern New York. They discovered in 2016 that their drinking water supply was contaminated with toxic PFOA chemicals from a nearby plant.
Hoosick Falls, who had a massive contamination of PFOA and PFOS in their system, there's no way that small town could have funded a $25 million water line 20 miles or 10 miles, let alone 2 miles. So in cases of emergency funding, that's what we're talking about here.
The municipalities still need to seek the approval of the state controller before they can borrow the money. The amendment has come before voters every 10 years since 1963. Aquario says in the future, perhaps the amendment allowing the additional debt should just be made permanent. Remember, both proposals are on the back of the ballot, so you need to turn the ballot over. In Albany, I'm Karen DeWitt.
Officials have been preparing for months to make sure the elections day are secure and running smoothly. Catherine Wheeler caught up with some election workers in St. Lawrence County as they wrapped up preparing the county's voting machines.
Debbie Paylor isn't a stranger to preparing for an election. She worked for the St. Lawrence County Board of Elections for more than 20 years and even served as the county's Republican election commissioner. But Paylor is still showing up.
It's hard to give up. It's something that's sort of in your blood a little, and I enjoy it. I enjoy meeting the people and seeing the process.
Paylor is paired up with a newcomer. Karen Johnson Weiner says she's worked as a poll worker on Election Day before, but getting behind the scenes is new.
Debbie has been a great teacher, and I've learned a lot in the last couple of days.
Karen.
Paylor and Johnson Weiner are among the few county election workers who are prepping more than 70 voting machines for Election Day. They aren't paired up just because of their experience levels. Each group testing the machines is bipartisan, one Democrat and one Republican.
There's nothing that says teamwork the way elections people work. I mean, you know, everybody's helping each other. The goal is to get a good election.
The big black machines are about the size of a small table. A worker wheels over the next one for Paylor and Johnson Weiner to test. The sign taped to the side says it's destined for the Norfolk 2 precinct.
Okay, this is only a one district machine.
They take the lid off and get to work. Paylor unwraps the cords and plugs it in. Johnson Weiner pulls up the screen and side panels. Then Johnson Weiner tests the accessibility functions for the visually impaired.
Republican, conservative. Rising selection. You are at the contest title.
They run through a checklist and sign when they're finished.
You have to check diagnostics to make sure that the different components of the voting machine are working. We've done that point. We've checked it off up to that point, and now we're going to put in some ballots to make sure it's counting correctly.
Paylor slides a door back, revealing where all of the completed ballots will pile up. Then she sticks her arm in and pulls out a compartment where the ballots with the write-in candidates are sorted so they can be counted individually.
Everybody votes on a paper ballot. They go to the machine, insert the ballot, and the machine tallies the votes. At the end of the night, it'll give you a tape with the results. I'll show you the zero tape right now.
A long receipt comes out of the machine when they're finished. It has the date, where the machine will be located, and when the polls close on Election Day, it'll have the results.
Unit serial number is AAFEB.
Paylor and Johnson Weiner wrap up this machine. They put the screen down, rewrap the cords, and lock it up. They zip tie all of the doors and compartments so it can't be tampered with. It's wheeled back to storage for Election Day. Johnson Weiner says she's taken this behind-the-scenes work for granted as a voter and poll worker.
I didn't know a lot about these machines. I didn't know how they got them ready. You know, as far as I was concerned, I show up at 5 a.m. and we unpack it and do sort of what we're doing now. But all the work that went on behind, I didn't know about, I didn't appreciate.
Johnson Weiner says after learning more about the process, she's confident in the county's election security. She and Paylor both say they wish more people would sign up to work the election and get involved in the democratic process. Catherine Wheeler, North Country Public Radio in Canton.
listening to Northern Light right here on North Country Public Radio. It's 9 minutes past 8. Good morning. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Coming up, Paul Smith's college students and staff recently finished a mobile hub of historical and cultural information about the Akwesasne community, including language, history, music, and art. And we'll talk with some of its creators coming up in just a few minutes here on Northern Light.
Potsdam cellist Beth Robinson. And Northern Light is supported by Adirondack Foundation, making grants to nonprofits that address community issues of childcare, attainable housing, career pathways, basic needs, and more. AdirondackFoundation.org. And by St. Lawrence Health, whose affiliation with Rochester Regional Health means more patient access to specialty care. StLawrenceHealthSystem.org.
The summer of 2023 will be remembered as the smoky summer, when smoke from wildfires in Canada caused serious air quality problems. Nearly half of the state's counties lacked real-time data to measure exactly how bad the air was because they didn't have an air quality sensor that could detect fine particulate matter. A professor at Cornell University realized that was a problem and has been working to fix it. Amy Feiereisel reports.
Starting in early June, waves of wildfire smoke from Canada began descending on New York State.
Many people experienced the dark skies, the smoky air. So this level of impact that we had is unprecedented in living memory for New Yorkers.
That's Alistair Hayden. He's a professor at Cornell University in the Department of Public and Ecosystem Health.
And I study wildfire smoke.
He says the June smoke waves had big health impacts on people, from headaches to hospitalizations and even deaths.
Throughout the month of June across New York State, we estimate over about 100 people died due to the wildfire smoke.
To stay safe and to know when to stay inside or avoid strenuous activity, people turned to the EPA's Air Now website. It's a big map with air quality levels by location and different color alerts for the level of severity. Hayden used it too.
And on that website, you can see where the air quality monitors are. And I noticed that most counties or many counties across New York State did not have an air quality monitor.
28 counties didn't have sensors, including many in the North Country: Clinton, Franklin, Jefferson, Fulton, Herkimer, Saratoga, and Washington counties.
And so they were pulling data from, in some cases, several counties away.
That's a problem, says Hayden, because that's inaccurate data.
You don't know what's happening for you, actually. And this can be especially important with wildfire smoke in communities that have lots of mountains and complex terrain, because you can be very different levels of smoke from someone even a couple miles away.
So Hayden and his colleagues worked with the state's Association for County Health Organizations and the Cornell Cooperative Extension to get sensors installed in those 28 counties. Data from the sensors will be used by state and federal agencies to issue alerts to the public, to help public health officials decide when to close schools or postpone sports games. It'll also help people most at risk, those with health issues and people who work outside or live in drafty houses, to make decisions during smoke events in the future.
And unfortunately, we expect that the future will be even smokier than it has been in the past. This is just a sign of things to come.
Hayden says by getting the sensors installed, communities will be more prepared for future smoke events. Amy Feiereisel, North Country Public Radio.
A longtime reporter in the Tri-Lakes is the new editor and publisher of the Adirondack Daily Enterprise. Andy Flynn grew up in Tupper Lake and started his journalism career at North Country Public Radio. He spent the last decade as editor of the Lake Placid News. He'll receive both that paper and the Adirondack Daily Enterprise in his new leadership role. And he says his goal is to keep the Tri-Lakes communities informed, inspired, and engaged with the news.
And a Rochester area native has been confirmed to lead the U.S. Navy. WXXI's Randy Gordman says the appointment also marks a milestone in the armed forces.
The U.S. Senate on Thursday confirmed the nomination of Admiral Lisa Franchetti as the Chief of Naval Operations. Franchetti's appointment makes her the first woman to lead the U.S. Navy, and she's also the first woman to hold a seat on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Franchetti is a 1981 graduate of Pittsford-Mendon High School and has held a variety of key positions in the Navy, including heading up the U.S. Sixth Fleet. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer talked about Franchetti's appointment on the Senate floor on Thursday.
And Admiral Franchetti is an exceptional leader with a distinguished career serving our nation. I'm confident she has the experience, the skills, and the vision to succeed as the U.S. Navy's top officer.
Franchetti was confirmed after bipartisan criticism against Alabama Republican Tommy Tuberville, who held up hundreds of military nominations to protest Pentagon abortion policy. For North Country Public Radio, I'm Randy Gortman.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. In just a minute, a hand-built trailer heads to Akwesasne this week as a bridge to promote Mohawk art and culture in Akwesasne. Then stick around after the show for Bird Know. We'll learn about the striped owl, the yelling owl, that is also believed to bring good luck, according to some cultures. We'll hear more coming up at 8:42. But first, Todd has a look at the weather for us.
We started out with some rain showers this morning, and the Weather Service says showers on and off throughout the day. Maybe a light wintry mix, depending on how mild it gets. Right now in Canton, 52 degrees and showers. Chance of a light snow showers tonight as temperatures fall into the 20s, near 30 overnight tonight. Winds out of the west-northwest. Then tomorrow, mix of sun and clouds, a little cooler, highs in the 30s on Wednesday. And Thursday and Friday at this point, a chance of a wintry mix with highs upper 30s, low 40s. The extended forecast calls for highs in the 30s and winds out of the northwest on Saturday and Sunday.
There are bookmobiles, food trucks, and mobile medical labs. Now a Mohawk Cultural Center on wheels hits the road this week. It's the result of a partnership between the Akwesasne community and Paul Smith College. The Cultural Learning Lab has been 3 years in the planning, developing, and construction phases. Some finishing touches were added this fall, and it will travel throughout the Mohawk community, serving as a mobile meeting space, tutoring space, and a center for learning the Mohawk language, music, and history. About 20 Paul Smith students designed and built the mobile center.
Some of them had absolutely no construction experience. It was great fun, and they learned a lot. And it wasn't just shop class. It wasn't just building. They had to incorporate project management and design and analysis of the project. They had to write a research paper about a topic that had to do with it. And it was really an amazing project. We're very proud of it.
That's Paul Smith's Dr. Deb Neighbor, known as the college's tiny house professor. Dr. Neighbor says it took about 6 months of work with a pause during the height of the COVID pandemic. It looks like a rustic cabin on wheels. All the doors and windows, including its main entrance at the far end, are leftovers from other projects. Wood was locally sourced and milled on campus, and its energy-efficient space includes battery-powered LED lights, a sink, and small fridge. Dee Knight graduated last May from Paul Smith's College with degrees in sustainability studies and biology. She was in the first semester group that worked on the mobile center from the wheels up.
I feel like the thing I'm most proud of is being able to give back to the community in Akwesasne and also build better relations with our Indigenous neighbors. I was a part of the First Nations Club here that we formed last year, and I think it's really important that the school continues to do work like this and works with the tribe and works especially to work with young people to try to improve education and revive the Mohawk language to younger people. So I think I'm most proud of that, is creating a space for a language to kind of grow in a space for people who had that space taken away from them before.
The trailer's entrance opens to a Mohawk creation story in mosaic tiles as you step inside. One wall of the space holds a large bookcase shaped like a tree made from recycled lumber. It's accented with hand-painted birds and butterflies. Erin Walker will graduate next month from Paul Smith's with a degree in natural resources conservation. She was in the second semester of the project when the flooring and interior work were completed.
It's just really important for me to be able to give back. I mean, I live in the area, so just to be able to give this as a resource is really important. And I really like the fact that it's not just for children. It's really important for kids to have a learning space, but it's also for adults too. So just a space where people can come together and talk about culture. It's just a really cool thing that I was able to be a part of. So my father actually does construction, and I told Deb before I started this, I was like, I hate construction. My father has I've had to be around it my entire life, but it was really fun for me, not only because I got to do something different, but because I got to learn about culture. I got to learn about this type of building. I worked on this bookshelf, lots of angles, so I got to learn about that. But yeah, it was really cool, and I definitely did learn a lot about also green construction, which is really important to me.
It's just beautiful. I mean, it's really a point of pride, Deb. And have you taken on projects like this before with your students?
This is the biggest one. Really? So when the grant got frozen due to COVID, we decided that we could help the Akwesasne community with literacy by building tiny libraries. So my class actually built 16 tiny libraries.
And those are those kiosks you kind of see around.
Yeah. And they made them look like all different kinds. They used old hockey sticks and skis, and, each one had a theme. And then from there, we were still on hold with this project, so we built them a tiny bookmobile for the Akwesasne, and they could take free books to various community activities. And this summer, they sent me photos of a line across an entire parking lot of little kids waiting to get a book. And that's a huge change for this video generation to want to read and to be cool. And there's no charge for the books. We get books. We help them collect over 600 books that were donated for the project. And so this is just an extension of that. They'll have tutoring for kids as well as a free library that sets up in the community in this. And my next thought is I would like to help them with affordable housing. I've actually designed an auxiliary dwelling unit that could be used to place elders near their caretakers as like an interim between being on their own and having to have intensive care. So that's my next project with students, is to work on that design and hopefully build a prototype.
Tiny house type?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I love how this has sort of inspired you to think bigger in terms of other projects.
I always say this is my last project.
For either of you two, has this inspired you to maybe a tiny house is in my future, or maybe a project like this intersecting with your studies or your majors, that kind of thing?
Well, it's hard not to think that way when you have Deb as a teacher, because she just opens your mind up so much to everything. We both actually went on a trip with her to British Columbia to explore tiny house, and we talked to tiny house developers. And
I would say, like I said, I learned a lot about sustainable building, both through this class and her tiny house design class. So I'm really interested in not only tiny houses, but even if, let's say I did build a house, using more sustainable materials to create something, and really thinking about my footprint on the earth. And that's just something that's really important to me, and something that's become way more important to me through being at Paul Smith's and having Deb as a teacher. Can't avoid it, which is great. Not complaining at all. But yeah, it's really helped me to think more about what I'm doing and my impact on the environment too.
Erin Walker is a senior at Paul Smith's College. She'll graduate next month. We also heard from recent graduate Dee Knight and Professor Deb Neighbor. They were among 20 other Paul Smith students and staff who worked on the Mohawk Cultural Learning Lab on Wheels. The project was underwritten by a grant from the Akwesasne Settlement Trust Fund. In a press release, Akat Ransom, director of the nonprofit Nia's Little Library, says it'll visit Akwesasne schools, community centers, powwows, and other events to make cultural education easily accessible. And a little later this morning, you'll find photos of the trailer on our website at ncpr.org.
You're listening to Northern Light right here on North Country Public Radio. It's 8:25. Good morning. I'm Monica Sandreski here with Todd Moe, and we want to let you know about a few of the events going on throughout the region, including tonight. It's an evening of storytelling at this season's final Howl Story Slam. It's tonight at 7 o'clock at Racket River Brewing in Tupper Lake. Bring your true 5-minute story on the theme Falling for It. It's free to get in and tell stories, but there is a suggested $10 donation in support of the Howl. For more details, visit ncpr.org/howl. The Howl is a presentation of NCPR and the Adirondack Center for Writing. Again, that's tonight at 7 o'clock at Racket River Brewing in Tupper Lake.
A couple of nationally known poets will be presenting a sampling of their work at the Downtown Artist Cellar in Malone coming up on the 9th. That's Thursday night as the gallery continues its Thrive Project presentations and programs. Linda Blasky and Robin Caudell from Plattsburgh will be among those reading their poetry Thursday night starting at 7 o'clock. It's free, and performer signups start at 6:30. Then the poems start at 7. That's at the Downtown Artist Cellar on East Main Street in Malone.
And if you're in the Potsdam area Thursday night, head over to SUNY Potsdam to hear the performance of the cellist that will be there. Sheku Kane Mason is the cellist who's only 24, and he performed at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding, and he is coming our way this Thursday evening. This is his recording of Scarborough Fair alongside Brazilian guitarist Plinio Fernandes. Scarborough Fair, performed by Sheku Kane Mason. This cellist is coming to SUNY Potsdam Thursday night this week. You can find out more at potsdam.edu. That's it for the show. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe. Thanks for listening. Be well.